Hello, it's been a while. Welcome along to Soundtrack and Extra here on YouTube, my little companion YouTube show to my podcast. And I've got quite a few shows that I'm going to share with you over the next few weeks, which is my way of, when you like friends to recommend things, that's what I like to do with this show. It's me telling you about films, TV shows, music that I think you're going to like. So we've got three fantastic women on the way for you. Jenna Coleman coming up, talking about her new TV show, The Serpent, which is fantastic. It's on the BBC iPlayer. If you haven't checked it out yet, really, really good. Loved it. Kind of binge watched it. Who else? We've got Tessa Thompson on the way, talking about her new film, Sylvie's Love, that is out for you guys to check out. And also she talks about her kind of extended role with that film, not just as an actor in front of the camera, but as a producer behind the scenes and how involved she got. But first up, Sofia Coppola. I love this woman. I love chatting to her, and I get very excited when she's got something new to unleash on the world. On the Rocks was the film that came out last year from her, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really made me laugh. I really connected with Rashida Jones's character, and I just think for me it came along at the right time and really made me laugh and really entertained me. And one of the other things that I loved about it was seeing her reunited with Bill Murray. Sophia and Bill have this, it's really obvious, this brilliant chemistry with director and actor. And you can see that he absolutely relishes the character and the role that she has written for him. So it was great to sit down and chat about On the Rocks and Bill Murray with Sofia Coppola. Hi, Dad.
Hey, kiddo.
Oh my gosh, do you look beautiful. Cliff, how's your mom's hip?
Good, thanks.
Good. He thinks you're my girlfriend.
Race.
Been busy?
Yeah, Dean's traveling with clients all the time, and I'm just the buzzkill waiting to schedule things. I'm so stuck.
So Dean's going away a lot, huh? On business trips?
Dad,
Raise your hand if that sounds fishy.
he's not like you. He's a good guy, a great dad.
Sure, it's nature. Males are forced to fight, to dominate, and to impregnate all females.
Maybe he's just not interested in me anymore.
Impossible. A woman is at her most beautiful between the ages of 35 and 39.
Great, so I have many months left.
Congratulations on the Rocks. I love this film. I felt so at home with it, and it made me laugh. That was one of the main things actually, that I can't remember laughing along with a film so much for such a long time.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And that was because of a lot of different things. I mean, Bill Murray, hands down, kind of, he could just sit and look at a camera and not do anything, and I would probably laugh. But I just think that you've tapped into something, being a mum, being a working mum, and kind of trying to find your groove, being in a funk, all that stuff that this film kind of throws up. And I think because you've written this as well, and it just feels like such a brilliant discussion, I guess, for people to have with this film in terms of this character and where she is and what she's going through, but it's done with such light relief along the way as well.
Oh, I'm so glad, because I was trying to put in the things that I was thinking about when I was starting to think about this idea, and my kids were younger, and just sort of this weird transition into school life and all these people that were just a whole new universe, and how weird it was, and kind of find that moment of trying to find your footing, and then combining it with being in the mood to try to make more of a sophisticated comedy, because I was missing those kind of movies, and have something fun. And I feel like in recent years, our reality has been so heavy. And also I feel like a lot of the stuff on TV, there's like this real, everything, a lot of things are gritty and violent, and pushing things. And I didn't want to do anything challenging, but so it had to be something really sweet and sincere, but without being totally sappy. Or that was the kind of the scary challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, and of course I always love seeing Bill and dressing him up, and it feels like, especially right now, we all need a little Bill Murray.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Bill Murray cheers us all up. But was it easy to write? Did you find
Oh,
writing
no,
it easy?
no, not at all. I mean, I always find writing the hardest part, but especially an original screenplay.
Yeah.
And I look back and this is my third one. It takes me 10 years in between to have enough life accumulated to have something to write about. And I always feel like it's, reflecting a different stage of transition, and where adapting is more like a fun puzzle to try to figure out, but it's not as scary and lonely, and because you have to really just kind of be alone with yourself to come
Yeah.
up with it, and not rely on another writer. But yeah, it was really hard. So I started thinking about it. I just looked at my notes like 7 years ago, and
Whoa.
I know. I was working on other projects and I had other versions of it, which were terrible. And I was really stuck. And talking to my brother, who was always really helpful, he helped me a lot talking about it with him and Mitch Glazer, one of our producers who is close with Bill. He was really encouraging that it could be a great role for Bill. And
Yeah.
so at first I didn't think I would work with Bill again because I was afraid of letting anyone down because that character is so beloved. And then, Mitch encouraged me, and when I started picturing him, I thought, oh, it has to be Bill, and I
Mm.
just have to, and it's fun to see him at a, different moment. And
I
that
have,
helped in the writing
yeah.
to think about him and Rashida.
I have that thing sometimes with when I go to a concert and I see one of my favorite bands and I kind of go, I don't know if I ever want to see them live again because that was perfect and how, it's kind of
You
like,
want to remember them.
yeah. And so hearing you say that about Bill, that feels like a kind of similar thing because, um, but there's just something magical, I think, about how you write for him that comes off the screen. He feels so, it gives him a spark that we don't see with him. I mean, we see so, Bill Murray has a spark, whatever he does, but I
Yeah.
think in the way that you write him, there's something that he relishes in that performance
Oh,
as well.
that's so
And
nice. Oh, sorry. I feel like I appreciate his tender side, and I do like dressing him up and making him kind of more debonair. Yeah, he has that side, but I think he has fun with it. And that's always surprising when he goes into an emotional scene, or he has to be the scene in Mexico when he's talking about a past love, losing her. I was really touched, and I said, you were really talking about someone, and he said, yeah, like, but I just think he really puts his heart. He's such a deep person, and he puts
mm,
himself in it, and I feel lucky that he trusts me enough to really put his full heart into it. And Rashida, he had so much regard for her too. I think that really helped because he really trusted her and he admires her, and so they had this real teamwork.
they're so good together on screen. Even just when the way that she physically reacts to some of the stuff that he says, just the kind of the eyebrow raise or the very subtle things, but it's like like a game of table tennis almost. It's so
Yeah.
great to watch.
Oh, I'm so glad she's so good at that. I think also she's so smart that she can convey a lot just with the look. And a lot on the script, a lot of it would just say, she gives him a look because like there's nothing you can say to someone who's lines.
Yeah.
But I feel like she conveys so much and just with an eyebrow. It was fun
Did
and she had to be the straight man, next to his more flamboyant side and kind of keep it grounded.
Was the musical number in the script in Mexico?
Yeah, I'd always like to put a scene with Bill singing because I love seeing him sing. And as a kid, I remember him from SNL being the lounge singer character. So I just think of him as a crooner. And I thought he's the kind of character who, yeah, who walks in and sings. My dad sings a lot.
Does
But
he?
yes, and so that was a little homage to him. But he wouldn't go into a hotel and take over like that. But just with me, he breaks into song, which my friends always are entertained by. But yeah, no, not on a stage like that. But so it was fun to ask Bill. I thought that character would be the kind of guy that would have taken over the whole room before she gets there. And I imagine like in college sang at a piano bar or something. But he has to make a big entrance, as she says. And when we did that song, I asked Paul Schaefer to help produce the song, and I didn't hear it before we were filming, and so Bill kept it under wraps. And so the first time we heard it was with me and Rashida when we filmed it, and Bill was really singing it like for us for the first time. And
Whoa.
so it was fun because he was proud to unleash his song, and it was like a fun surprise.
I almost feel like Bill, he almost, sometimes you think he exists within a musical almost in a way, because sometimes his movements and his rhythm is so musical anyway that, he almost kind of speaks sometimes, he's kind of got that kind of delivery sometimes that I think there's just something wonderfully musical about him and his performance.
He's a dancer, yeah. As a person, he's a dancer. I feel like he loves, he likes to dance, and he's just, and and you can tell he loves music. But he's just so full of life. I think that comes through that.
Yeah.
And I wanted that character to have that too, that he doesn't just smell the flowers, he embraces them with his whole being. And like that's his. But Bill does have that, which I feel like when he sees someone being uptight, he always tries to get them to loosen up, which I wanted him to do with that character, but I've seen him do it in life. He probably does it with me too.
I loved watching him with the kids as well. I thought that was a beautiful, in terms of really captured that grandparent-grandchild relationship, because it's wonderful watching my mom and dad with my kids, in that it's a very different relationship, because there's a different, they kind of just have the fun part almost.
Yeah, they have like a mischievous connection because they can sneak around and do things. They have a camaraderie that's really sweet. It's true. It's a thing against the parents in a sweet way, that they have a little secret connection and things that they do. Yeah, that's sweet to see that with your family. And it was so cute to see him with the kids.
Can you just act a little less excited about this? Because this is my life, and it might be falling apart.
I don't know why women get plastic surgery.
Because of men like you.
I prefer the factory original.
Yeah, and every other make and model.
Thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Sofia Coppola on the Rocks is available to watch on various streaming services right now. Apple TV, I know, is one of them, and I thoroughly recommend it. Tessa Thompson is one of those amazing creative talents that you can't put her in a box, which is not an easy thing for an actor to achieve, but she's managed to do it. She can kind of throw her weight to anything, the big Valkyrie roles in Thor, but then also Sylvie in Sylvie's Love, this beautiful little film that she stars in, plays Sylvie, but also she's a producer on this film. And it's a really gorgeous film, set in the 60s in New York, and she plays this character whose dad runs a record shop, and she really wants to have a career of her own. Falls in love, and it's a love story. It's a love story at the essence. But I really enjoyed it, and I just love watching Tessa on screen, and it was great to get to chat to her about Sylvie's Love, but also talking to her about the future for her in terms of her involvement in film behind the camera.
Tell me about this new boy at the store. Hey, what's your favorite song on this?
You don't know what love is.
I am not answering that. Is he cute? I didn't really notice that much.
My band's playing tonight at 9 if you want to come. Never met a girl who knew as much about music as you do. And television.
Don't get me started. I've seen every episode of everything. How was it? He's extraordinary.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Can I walk you?
I mean, this is a film that you're kind of fully immersed in as well, in terms of your kind of roles behind the camera as well as in front of, in terms of being an exec producer on it and stuff. How does that change things for you in terms of your involvement in a film? What's the difference? What does it mean you
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think for me, producing felt like a natural extension of the way I work in general. I typically am really hands-on. I know some actors that kind of come to set and they're very focused on just their contribution, and I've always envied that, actually, because it's easier to sort of concentrate on just what you have to do, but I've never been very good at that. I'm always like curious and interested in meddling in everyone else's job, because I like the process of storytelling, and to me it's all one. So it feels like a natural extension. I will say a difference that I really enjoy is that I feel like when I look at the film, I feel like my contribution is inside of the DNA of the project. So if you look at Sylvie's Love, there are shots in it that I suggested. There is a whole sequence that I pitched to Eugene and to Namdi, my fellow producer. And so I get to see it, and it is a different, I don't know, it's a different connection that I have to the process when I feel like I'm instrumental in the way that the thing is made from the ground up, and I just enjoy it so much.
Well, it's that investment in the character as well on a whole other level, isn't it, almost, in a way?
Yeah, exactly. And I also love just the teamwork aspect of it, and getting to really get in there and work very closely with everyone, because, obviously for this film, Namdi and I are on screen, but there's a host of people that make the story possible. And I really love being able to feel closer connected to that collective of artists and storytellers.
Music has an amazing place within this film on so many different ways. There's an amazing thread of music that we hear throughout the film. There's Sylvie's kind of almost encyclopedic knowledge on music that I love hearing. The record store, it's beautiful. It kind of like, it almost has this wonderful multifaceted kind of role within the film. Music, it's kind of not just one thing, it plays so many parts within the film. Was that in the script? Was that kind of really obvious that was kind of how it was going to be with Eugene's script, that music was not just a case of there's going to be songs here and we're going to watch Namdi play here, but it had more purpose, really?
Yeah, there was that was always embedded in the script, which was a reason why I was really compelled to make it. My father's a musician. I grew up going through vinyl, much like Sylvie, although we didn't have a record shop. I grew up around a lot of music and varied influences. So music is always a language that I feel like I've spoken. And Eugene comes from the world of music, was a recording artist. And so it was a huge part of his story, inside of a story about romantic love between these two characters. There's also the kind of love that is shared with people that you make things with in this form of this band, and all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of that kind of love. So the love of music was always embedded into this piece.
It's that thing as well with relationships, isn't it? Where you always have music plays such an important part, whether that's at the start of a relationship where you're kind of, picking tunes can almost tell you a lot about a person, can't it?
Yeah. I know, it's like that thing of when you're sending songs back and forth and you can read between the lines and thinking if someone's trying to tell you something with music. I love that. I still love that. I'm like a kid in high school or something around that.
And also when you play certain songs at certain times in your life where you need almost like a support, whether that's a kind of emotional support where you deliberately will go to a song that is going to provide exactly what you need.
Yeah, trust me, this year has been a tough one. So there's a lot of music assisting me through a day or an hour or a moment, definitely.
Am I right in thinking that Namdi learned to play sax for this as well? That he didn't.
He did, yeah. He had played the clarinet growing up a little bit, but not hugely. And he spent about a year learning. So when we first started having conversations about doing this piece, I think he had already begun. It's so hard to get out because our film is independent now. We're so lucky it's going to stream on Amazon, but we made it as an independent film. And there's this period where you think it's going to happen, it almost happens, it doesn't happen. And he didn't want to waste any time. And so as soon as he thought, I'd really like to make this movie, he began learning how to play saxophone so that if and when the movie happened, he'd be ready. It's actually a testament to him. My dad, who's a musician and started on the alto sax. I think it was my dad was alto. He was really impressed by Nnamdi and the way he looked playing. So I actually haven't told Nnamdi that. I should tell him that.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I think it was quite easy to fall in love with Nnamdi as a performer because I really, he was working so hard, and I think work ethic is something that I really admire in other performers. And just when you care so much about a thing and you're working really hard to try to do a story justice, and that was something that he was really doing that I just was so taken by. And he was also falling in love with film because it's only his second time,
Crazy.
Making a movie. So it was really, I felt really swept away by getting to watch someone very early on in their career, just fall in love with the process of making a film.
It's been a while since I smiled.
You're working? You're not being a very good hostess, and what will people say?
I can't be the woman of your dreams while also trying to be the woman of my own.
I guess I just wanted you to be happy. Even if I couldn't be a part of your life.
Pleasant experiences ahead. Don't pass it by.
The wonderful and inspiring Tessa Thompson. Sylvie's Love is available to watch as of now. Finally, Jenna Coleman, who I've loved watching over the years and really excited about where she's going as an actor as well. And I think that this particular role in The Serpent has really allowed her to show us how much she's got there, and what she can do as an actor. I really, really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed her performance. And I'm excited to see what she does next. But I had a lovely time chatting to her.
Are you a dangerous man?
The question first is whether I committed murder.
And did you?
Welcome to Kennett House.
Murdered travelers in Thailand and elsewhere.
He poisons the kids, makes them believe they're sick.
Monique, bring her some tea.
How would you describe The Serpent when you tell people about it?
Oof. I think if I had to do it in a few words from my first readings of it and that story, it's intoxicating, I think is the word. Yeah. Someone said something about watching it was like I got really addicted and I couldn't stop watching it, but I also didn't like how it made me feel.
Yeah.
And there's something a little of that in it. It's like really again, I don't know if it's because it's true. It's such an unbelievable story, having never heard of it before. It's something, and I guess in a way, The Serpent as well. About this something seductive and dark and the depravity. Yeah. And again, the world of the 70s and it being all about purity and hedonism and freedom, and meets The Serpent. There's something about those things juxtaposed against each other, which is just dark.
Did you kind of obviously, because it's it says at the very top, it kind of says this is based on real events, but obviously it's a dramatization and there's creative license that comes with that. But in terms of your character, how real was she, and how much kind of work did you kind of do to diving into Marie?
I mean, there was loads of work to be done because, and again, in terms of access of we have her diaries, we have her statement. There was Richard Neville and Julie Clark wrote a really interesting book, and they went to visit them in prison, Charles and Marie-Andre. One thing I think so interesting is even in prison, she was still called Monique, which she still called herself Monique, which is the name that Charles gave her. Like she never went back to Marie-Andre. But I think what's really interesting, and in a way the puzzle and the piece to crack and explore, and was her psychology was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Like there's kind of this enigma about her, but this duality in playing this role of Monique versus the Marie-Andre who she was when she was growing up. And yet she was so tortured, but also it was like someone who is addicted to being tortured. It was almost like she liked to feel pain, and almost like her self-worth was so low.
Yeah.
I feel like she was almost addicted to being around Charles, and he made her feel worse, and it was in this cycle.
Yeah.
Almost. I think the victim versus, accomplice it's not simple, and it never, even from all the research, who knows the truth? I have some of my own thoughts about it, but I definitely don't think it's as simple as she was a victim.
Yeah.
Someone wrote she was a victim of love, but I think there was a part of her willing to suppress her moral compass and the reality in order to live the life that she wanted.
Because you see, it's really interesting. Like even in the first episode, with the Dutch couple, and she has this really interesting role with their kind of game that they play with these people, and you see cracks, little kind of shards almost of Marie-Andre kind of trying to peek through at moments in a way. It's so brilliant, and I love the way that you've played that, because you allow us to have this duality of this individual and see that she's not just one thing. There is something behind that's that's the reason she is this person that we see, I guess.
It's like someone constructing their own reality. So it's almost always playing against the perfect example is the scene at the end of episode 2 where she's listening to She on the radio whilst the Dutch couple are being, there's violence happening in the room next door, and it's about squashing truth and constructing her own reality, which is this, kind of twisted idea of romance and love that she has, but she believes there's a purity, and almost, I think there's something in her about being really devout, like religiously. And it's almost, I always thought it's like Charles arrives on the scene and almost becomes her religion. By loving him purely and without unconditionally, there's goodness there. There has to be, because that's what love is.
Yeah.
So her psychology is
so interesting. And music's such a big part of Serpent as well, in terms of captivating that sound of the 70s, but also the sound of the 70s in where you are in the world. And the sound design.
Exotic.
Yeah, and the sound design as well. The noise of that environment and that landscape and stuff as well, both in terms of the kind of cities, but being by the sea or up in the mountains and all that kind of stuff as well. It's so brilliantly and beautifully weaved together.
It was great to listen to whilst we were filming, like having that to really get into the 70s, vibe and world. The music was amazing.
Did Ben give you did Tom give you playlists and stuff then to listen to, or?
He gave us there was this one song, Led Zeppelin, In My Time of Dying, was like, but it got to the point where any scene where we're kind of doing like the walking where you have to be a bit cool, like when we're like looking like
it's like the Reservoir Dogs kind of walk, that sort of
like honestly it was like my internal gramophone. It was like no, like going round and round. But Tom sent me a link, because we had a bit of a running joke that Marie-Andre, like being Quebecois and not quite Parisian, not quite, like had like this really like this taste in really cheesy music. So like he sent me like Leaving on a Jet Plane. I had like this certain, a very certain this like vibe. There was, a lot of Francois Hardy and really good tunes. I'm listening to the soundtrack now. Maybe it's because I wish to be transported back to Thailand.
Yeah, I think you should stick that up as a public thing so we can all be on holiday together. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
He robs, kills. You can't catch them all.
We might catch this one.
This man will keep on killing until he is caught.
What if he's never caught?
What are you going to do?
We just got back. You must let us buy you dinner.
The Serpent.
on BBC One and iPlayer.
Oh, it was like catching up with an old mate. Jenna Coleman, really love spending time with her. And if you haven't watched it yet, please do go and check out The Serpent. It is well worth watching. Thank you so much for joining me on this latest episode of Soundtrack and Extra, my little YouTube show. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch it. And if you haven't checked out the podcast yet, the most recent episode of that, which on today, the 12th of February, you may be watching this at a different time, but today Elan Eshkari was released as the brand new episode. Last week we had Kristen Anderson Lopez and Bobby Lopez, of course, who wrote many of the most famous songs from Disney films of the recent years, Into the Unknown, amongst many others. They were brilliant. And prior to that we had Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So please go and search for Soundtrack in UK on your usual podcast provider. And I will be back next week with another episode of Soundtrack and Extra. Until then, take care.